So Israel has announced a plan to withdraw some troops from Gaza. I'm assuming they mean the second or just moving some troops from one location to a different location. Because Bibi has said this war is going to last for months and months until he decide it's going to end.
Israel now. The military there says it will begin withdrawing some troops from Gaza this week. At the same time, the military says the campaign could last throughout the entire year. Tensions are also rising in the nearby Red Sea. Iran says one of its warships has moved into those waters. That comes one day after the U.S. took its first lethal action in the Red Sea, destroying 3 boats belonging to an Iranian-backed militia. That particular group has been increasing attacks on commercial ships traveling toward the Mediterranean and Israel over the last several weeks. Let's bring in NBC News foreign correspondent Josh Letterman. He remains in Tel Aviv for us. Josh, Happy New Year to you. Let's start with the Israeli troop withdrawal. How many are leaving Gaza, and why are they doing this right now?
Well, the IDF doesn't disclose how many troops it has in Gaza, Kate, but here in Israel, a brigade is somewhere between 2,000 and 5,000 troops, and the Israeli military says it's withdrawing 5 brigades. So you do the math, it's likely at least 10,000 troops that are going to be coming home for now. And you might think the fact that Israel is withdrawing so many of those troops, including reservists, might mean that they are shifting to a lower intensity phase of this war or even winding down the war. But Israel says it is not so. They are going to great lengths today to say that this, in fact, means basically the opposite, that they are trying to make sure that they are pacing themselves for what they expect is going to be a months-long war and making sure that those troops are rested, the economy able to function so that some of those troops can eventually go back to Gaza.
So he wants a protracted war, um, probably hoping that throughout the winter a number of Palestinians and stuff will die off from the cold and all that, making it easier to continue the genocide.
And Josh, Israel's Supreme Court today struck down part of a law that overhauled the country's legal system, right? There were massive protests after Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government pushed that law through earlier this summer before the war against Hamas. So what impact?
Oh yeah, you can't forget about that. Yeah, that some of that was struck down. Netanyahu was wanting to make it so that uh, a certain uh, part of the Israeli government had pretty much ultimate control. Basically, he and his party would be able to make any and all laws that they wanted.
Will today's Supreme Court decision maybe have within Israel?
Well, it's going to raise real questions about Prime Minister Netanyahu's future leadership, because he had really staked his prime ministership on this judicial overhaul that was so controversial, was really tearing the country apart from within until October 7th changed the.
Yeah, yeah. I watched some videos about the protests going on. Um, Israeli citizens were worried that Netanyahu would use the bill to change the government so that he and his party would be able to have total control. He wouldn't have to face his corruption charges and basically do whatever he wanted.
Focus of everything. Now the Supreme Court saying that they are overruling a key part of that that allowed the court to throw out laws it deemed unreasonable. The big question is, will this re-up some of those concerns about Netanyahu, or will the country remain squarely focused on the war?
And let me switch to those tensions in the Red Sea. What else do we know about the Iranian warship that arrived there? How's the U.S. responding to that?
Well, the U.S. says it's going to do whatever it needs to do to protect global shipping in the Red Sea. And the British military, Kate, is saying that they are considering direct action against the Houthis that are based in Yemen. And so we are really inching toward a proxy war right now between Iran and.
No, it's funny how fast the United States will go to fight the Houthis, but they're not willing to at least condemn the Israeli government and their genocide.
And the West in the Red Sea, just as the U.S. says that one of its carrier strike groups, the USS Ford, that's been based in the Mediterranean since the war started, is actually going home. But at the same time, the U.S. is now working with a coalition of some 20 nations and their navies to try to protect shipping in the Red Sea as we are continuing to see this crisis.
Well, 20 nations can get together to protect shipping lanes, but they can't get together to protect the Palestinians from a different terrorists.
Cases really escalate with more and more aggressive attacks from Houthis onto these ships, and now the U.S. military